Welcome back into One Winning Pod, where for the first time the 2024 season, it is a Ravens win podcast. The Ravens looked like it was going to be easy. They made it look like it was going to be, a big-time blowout down in Dallas, and then things happened in the fourth quarter, and it almost wasn't a win, but then it was. And so now the fan base is left feeling mixed, feeling conflicted, feeling a lot of things, but I know first and foremost for myself, and you guys feel free to voice your opinions. For me, I'm just happy the Ravens have their first win of the 2024 season. Certainly there's a lot to work on. Certainly there's a lot that's going well as we'll get to. But yeah, guys, vibe check after that blowout that then wasn't. How are we feeling?
Yeah, certainly. I feel like from some people, I think the vibes are almost kind of like a loss, right? It wasn't pretty. It was another kind of another one of those games where it was almost a fourth quarter collapse. I think I hate to say it, like it almost sounds a little bit cliche. I just kind of did another rewatch and like two, maybe three plays, and a couple of them I think were, penalty related. And, I feel like that was kind of the difference between a blowout and, the game that we had. So I feel like there was a lot that was really good. I think we'll talk about it, but the offense I think looked much improved, I think, in a lot of phases. So I'm glad that they got a lot of stuff figured out. But now it's, you got to stack wins, right? We got to get back to 2-2, back to 500, and then back in the positive, as we so say. So, yeah, but definitely overall, I think mixed emotions. I think.
Yeah, I was tilting before the game even started. The inactives came out, and I was losing my mind. And I think one of the things that kind of kills me is like I'm just super disappointed that so many of our draft picks are not contributing. I think that's a big bummer. Obviously, Tampa and Isaac have been dealing with injuries, and Walker had some stuff during the preseason, but I think that's mostly cleared up now. So that was disappointing. And then I was disappointed about the Urban thing because I was just like, man, they're keeping themselves thin. And I was just like, man, like, what are we doing? Like, I want to see some of our shiny new toys. I don't like this Urban thing. I feel like it's optimizing for the wrong thing, kickoffs and stuff. So that had me like in a little bit of a tilt. Then they started winning, and I felt good. And then the wheels started coming off, and I was like, I've seen this before. I saw it last week. I saw it, and I'm just like so tired of seeing it. I'm like, can this team just play 4 quarters? And I was just losing my mind. And like the special teams were having a bad day. And I was just like, man, that's like the whole point of Harbaugh. Harbaugh, you're a special teams guy. And I'm just like, everything was just like making me tilt. So I got a huge death tilt, and I was like, well, never a satisfying day. Like they won, but it wasn't super satisfying. Kind of like what Chris was saying, like it almost feels like a loss. And it's just like, I don't know. I was just like a little disappointed that I'm seeing this story all over again. But now I'm like looking at the DVOA, and we're like number 5 in the league. And I was like, man, analytics don't lie. We're looking pretty good, So like, I don't know. I mean, the team has so much promise, and I think that's the killer. And Peter kind of alluded to it before we started hitting record that, like this team is better than their record shows. And I think we should like be happy as if that's the case, because there's a long season ahead. We're going to steal some games most likely, and we'll get some wins, and like it should all work itself out in the end. But I don't know. I wish that we were off to a hotter start, and that the inability to just close out a game in confidence, like see Josh Johnson play some snaps, is just sad. Because I think we were a drive away from it. Like I think if we scored one more touchdown, it was over, and that could have been in the third quarter. So that's what killed me.
Yeah, the way I look at it is really the way this schedule is situated. I think ultimately you've really wanted the Ravens to go 2-1 during this stretch at worst case. You got Buffalo at home, luckily, but on Sunday Night Football. And I mean, Buffalo, along with, of all teams, the Sam Darnold-led Minnesota Vikings, look far and away like the only complete teams in the NFL as it stands right now, in my opinion, as far as execution and actually going out. There's other teams that are 3-0, like the Seahawks and the Steelers, but I personally need to see more from those teams. Seahawks almost lost in overtime to the Patriots, although, I mean, that was still a win on the East Coast, right? And I mean, the Steelers, their wins, we'll see how good they are, right? But yeah, the way the 17-game season is now, I mean, these first 3 games, I feel like, are basically extended preseason because these coaches in the NFL need to figure out how to manage these teams to be able to withstand a full season and not start out too hot and then fade down the stretch like another team in Baltimore possibly. But
hey, they're winning right now.
Hopefully they keep it up, man. I have full belief in them, but the facts are the facts. Their second half has not been as good as their first half. But anyways, yeah, and I mean, also the Ravens have a really late bye week, we have to remember too. So I'm sure that's in the back of Harbaugh's head and the rest of the coaching staff of just like, okay, how do we, obviously win games, but also preserve the team for this long stretch where they're not getting a bye week till December, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of positives. I think there's things that need to get cleaned up. But what I think we saw in this game against Dallas is a lot of improvement in things that we wanted to see improvements in. And now they just need to close the door. That's, I said after the Raiders game, I thought the number one reason they lost that game was because they didn't score touchdowns in the first half. They scored field goals. That was the difference in this game. If they had scored field goals in this game instead of touchdowns, they would have lost, right? So, I think we got to really look at the things that the Ravens did well this week that were improvements from the previous 2 weeks and commend them for that. But also, be aware, and I'm 100% certain they are as well, like, you got to also play the fourth quarter. So, and you're going against a Buffalo Bills team this week that is playing 4 quarters of football. We saw them just blow out the Jacksonville Jaguars last night in a very convincing fashion. So, if they can just carry over those 3 quarters of football into the fourth, I mean, they're looking pretty good.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that did go really well. I think we talked about it after, we reviewed the Raiders game. You gotta fix the run game. Like, where's Henry? We saw a little bit from him, I think, against the Raiders, but we were really like, hey, we need to unlock him, turn him into Derrick Henry of old, and they did just that. And we got the iconic stiff arm again. We got some big runs. We got a couple of touchdowns. I think that was huge to be able to get him going. From what I was looking, like it seemed like run blocking was kind of improved across the board. Right side looked a little bit better. Flele and McCary both, I think, looked better. Linderbaum had some better blocks. And I think they also, mixed it up a little bit too. They tried running behind the left, and they had some success over on the left side as well. I think all of that stuff was really good. And then you throw in a couple of Lamar runs in there as well. Like, I feel like that kind of unlocked the Ravens offense that we've been used to seeing a couple of years ago. So I think that was a great first step for them just to get the run game back on track.
100%. I really have to commend Falele for this game. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But man, did we see a different player in this game, I think. He was pulling. He was making second-level blocks in the run game in particular. I think he was really strong, had some good sets in pass protection as well. And again, are there things that need to improve? Yes. Was this an easier matchup than he had the previous 2 weeks? Yes. But you still love to see an improvement from a guy. I don't know. I don't think any of us know if really him or Cleveland is the better option. Obviously, on this pod, we have a guy. I think we've had a guy that we've been calling for, but it seems like the coaching staff wants Falele in there. So if he's going to be in there, let's see him perform. And I don't know if he's going to do it again against Buffalo, but in this game against Dallas, I think he rose to the occasion. And like you said, Chris, you saw better blocks out of Voorhees as well. Linderbaum, I think, has had a solid start to the year, but he had a really strong game as well. It was actually fun watching this offensive line, which is not something I could say about the first 2 weeks, aside from, certain snaps from Stanley. It was actually enjoyable to watch this offensive line. And when the offensive line is enjoyable to watch, that means Derrick Henry is going to make big plays. And he certainly did in this game. Looked like the Derrick Henry that we were used to seeing with the Tennessee Titans in this game.
Yeah, I hope it continues against tougher defensive lines. I will say the big thing about Falele that was nice is that Harbaugh mentioned, and everyone's going out of their way to mention, but he was playing with more aggressiveness, and that is number one complaint. This guy's so big, he's so imposing, he has long arms. Like, if you're able to play more aggressive, you should be able to kind of box, do a good job and box people out, and like he could really be something. The pools would always be kind of questionable just because of his size and speed, but like the downhill stuff he should be really good at. And it seems like, hopefully the switch might be happening. So, we'll keep watching that space, particularly against, like higher level opponents. Because it turns out that I don't think the Cowboys like tackling. They're kind of out on the whole tackling thing. They're not as physical.
To it.
Yeah, we knew that going into the game. Another thing they're allergic to is like being able to guard the seams, and I felt a little disappointed that we weren't targeting that. Like I felt we could have had some more deep balls down the middle, but it seemed like the plan was, hey, let's just like keep it simple in the passing game, not do it too much, and we're just going to run it down their throats, which was effective. So like I can't be too upset about them not doing that. But I think looking ahead to the Bills, that's the game you might want to do it. So I'm hoping we start attacking downfield a little bit more and seeing what we can do there. It was kind of fun last night, like just kind of an aside, like watching Daniel start downfield so much. Like he was really letting it sling and like stretching the field. And I just was like, man, that'd be dynamic to add to this offense because we really don't do that much.
And I think they will. I mean, I think that's kind of what Harbaugh has been hinting at in the press conferences since after the first game against City. Now, I mean, you're allowed to not like it if you're a fan. I mean, I'm sure people have loads of different, opinions on that, but it seems to me that the way the Ravens are looking to approach this season, and we've kind of seen it in these first 3 games, is like their approach is going to be different based on the opponent. Some weeks we're going to see more Henry and Lamar's not going to throw much. Some weeks we're going to see a lot of the tight ends. Some weeks, maybe it'll be next week, they'll be attacking the perimeter, like you're saying, with Flowers and Bateman. I think Bateman is slowly, he's a part of the offense these first 3 weeks, which he wasn't, last year. We still want him to be more of one, but I think that if they want to have a game where they're really going to attack the perimeter, Bateman's going to be a part of that game plan. And I think he's getting geared up to be able to do that. So, yeah, they won. That's the biggest thing. And I think that it was a smart game plan because you looked at what's the easiest way to attack this defense? What's the safest way to play this game? Where can we have a lot of success? That was through the run game. Those two just pounding it, just getting back to basic Ravens football. And they had a lot of success with it. So, I want to see the deep passes. Who doesn't want to see the deep pass? That's the best part of football, right? I mean, seeing the deep pass. And Lamar can do it. They have weapons to do it. I'd be surprised if it doesn't come, but then again, I don't know Monken, right? I'm not in his head. But yeah, I think you bring up a good point there. There's opportunities against the Bills, and we'll see. Hopefully they can catch them off guard, and we can start seeing some of that.
Yeah, one week at a time. Look, I mean, I feel like the summary of the first 2 weeks is like, look, run game wasn't as good as we wanted it to be, particularly in certain situations, and offensive line play was just not good, right, across the board. I think we're trending up on offensive line play. I'm not saying it's fixed; it's better, right? So fix that this week. Fix that for now this week, and then keep building on it the following weeks. You do bring up a good point though, Peter, of like, I feel like it's kind of one of the frustrating things of Monken's offense. And honestly, I don't remember enough, I guess, about at the time about how like Cam Cameron's offense was constructed. But I feel like I feel like the flexibility of the offense is a little bit of a detriment if you have a game plan that like doesn't work that week. You're like, oh my God, why didn't like Andrews get involved, Zay get involved, Henry didn't get anything? Like the offense just sucked. And then next week everything's great because they figure it out. They have a different game plan, different opponent, and like everything's great. I feel like that's like my like number one complaint with Monken right now is just I feel like you don't know what is consistent in your offense. But that being said, when it works well, it does, effectively go, very well. And I think it gets better over time, particularly with offensive line play as it gets better over time.
Yeah, definitely. I think we could say that. I do want to talk a bit though about, the defense. We definitely want to talk about them. I think in some ways, this Cowboys offense, you got Dak there, who finished, if I remember correctly, runner-up to the MVP to Lamar was the MVP in some people's minds just by looking at, people want to look at numbers. Of course, Dak's going to have better passing numbers than Lamar because Lamar's going to be running more than Dak is. They got CeeDee Lamb there, one of the best wide receivers in the league right now. Decent offensive line. They got other weapons that are interesting, but I'd argue they're not really much better than, what the Ravens have, like Likely, Aguilar, guys like that. Ferguson, Tolbert, guys who got potential, but still aren't, stars like that. But excellent start, of course, but that fourth quarter, obviously a lot of opinions. People have a lot of opinions on it. I look at it more as I'm more interested in what happened in the first three quarters. I think they'll fix the fourth quarter, but I guess how concerned are you guys with the fourth quarter collapse of the defense? They were shutting them out of the end zone for those three quarters, but then there's 19 points in the fourth quarter.
If the game was 5 minutes longer, do you think we win?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
it was more of a toss-up for me. Like, I just feel like they lost the script. Like it felt like they weren't able to transition back into attack mode. I mean, I think Harbaugh kind of mentioned it. Like, you go from being up and like what that means on defense to then like, okay, it's a tight game again. It seemed like they were really thrown for a loop by not getting the onside kick and having that double up attempt. So yeah, I guess like I was just concerned that it would be a problem. But I guess the good news is that you can only onside kick twice now, apparently. Fun fact. So maybe they've been okay. They have to go full field. Can't do that. But
yeah. I mean, it's. I think it's hard to kind of answer that question about the defense without talking special teams, because I do think. I mean, we'll get to it more later, but Tucker's missed field goal put them in good field position in a short field, right? Score there. You miss the onside kick attempt again, special teams gaff, and you put the defense in bad situations to then have to, play tons of snaps back to back to back. Yeah. At least schematically, like I know one common complaint in like the Harbaugh era about like defenses, like, oh my God, they go prevent defense and look all that. Like, look, man, I'm looking at the plays, like you're calling blitzes, like you're having you're not just having like 9 guys drop into coverage and play prevent all the time, right? There was a mix of plays there. And I do think there was a lot of good, but between those special teams gaffes and some penalties on the other side, again, like a handful of these plays here and there that really kind of add up and have the outcome that you have. So I'm not super worried. I do think in general, I think that they need to do better, I think, in the secondary to try and play a little bit more tighter in these situations. But I'm not like, oh my God, like personnel's not going to work or anything. Like, I think we're okay, but certainly you don't want to see an outcome like this again. I think you're going to, like Lamar said, right? If we had lost this game, I think a lot of fans would have been on suicide watch. That's a reality, right? I mean, I think everyone realizes like we got to do better.
The reason I say that the Ravens, I mean, it's kind of I understand what Alec is asking. It's kind of a meaningless hypothetical because, if games are 70 minutes, well, I don't know, the strategy would change, right? But anyways. I mean, things need to be cleaned up in special teams and defense at the end of the game. Absolutely. I think some of it is, at least from the defensive perspective, is conditioning. And I think that's just the whole NFL is working on that, right? It's still only week 3. Guys aren't physically ready to play all those games. You see, like Chris, I think you brought up a great point. They're calling similar coverages, they're calling similar plays as they are the rest of the games, but in that fourth quarter, guys are missing tackles. They're not as quick to the ball, and that's how you saw some receivers open. I think the defense was just gassed, honestly. And I think as the season goes on, and we've seen this before, we saw this in 2022. The defense was giving up a ton of yards in the passing game, but then as the season got along, it tightened up, right? I think we'll see the same thing. But now this doesn't go to the defense, but I do think a huge reason the Ravens won on Sunday was Lamar Jackson. I mean, for all the things Lamar has done, great. I think he has to be included in the equation when you look at those games that have been, lost leads in fourth quarters. there's been a lot of times, and Flacco was infamous for doing this as well between 2015 and 2017, where, the opponent comes back, get the ball back, and you quickly go 3 and out, and then punt it right back to the defense, right? But, to his credit, I thought that the play call there was excellent, and the execution was great there to Zay, and as well as the run that basically iced the game. I think it's the defense and offense together, and sometimes the best defense is a good offense. And I think in this game, Lamar was ready when his number was called to ice the game. And I think if that drive continued, the Ravens go down the field and score a touchdown. I really do think that. I think that they had gotten back the momentum there. So that, I think, was the thing that I was most encouraged by in this game, was seeing Lamar run what was essentially really just, what was it, 5 plays there to ice the game. Because that's what you need to do, right? That's what you need from your MVP quarterback when everything else has kind of collapsed. You need him to go out there and be that guy that's being like, we're not going to lose. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's what he did. And we haven't always seen that from Lamar, as good as he's been. So that, I think, was incredibly encouraging. And hopefully that continues, and he'll continue to be able to deliver like that in similar moments as the season continues.
Lamar played out of his mind for sure. He played quite well. 8% completion rate, 133 something for quarterback rating. 87 yards rushing. The one week that you had like 100 rushes for both of them, man, that'd been a bad beat, because our good buddy Henry got so many yards. It's just unfair. There's only so many yards to be gained in the game. But Lamar was no slouch. But anyways, Chris got his bold prediction. I'm pretty sure I didn't, by the way. I don't think Hamilton had enough impact plays per my ridiculous formula that I could not bother to remember what it was.
It's fine. No one else followed your formula anyway. It's okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's not because you're smart. It's because the formula was bad. But that's
it's
fine.
Bad formula. No, I know. Yeah. No, it was
Bateman finished
weaving.
100. Yeah, Bateman finished 100 yards shy of 128 yards. So mine.
He did have a touchdown.
He did have a touchdown.
We must adjust. We must adjust. Maybe what we do is we make our bold predictions have 3 facets, and it's like 2 points, 1 point, 0 points, and -1 points. If you get
it's supposed to be a simple game. It's supposed to be a simple game. You messed up last week with your stupid ass formula.
Yeah. Remember when we did poker and we were like betting on it? Never again. Anyways, but anyways, yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm looking at the snap counts, and like, it is a little frustrating. I don't know what to do with the defense. I think I do really think that Urban taking up the snaps he does helps. It reduces everyone's load by like 10%. But I also think another thing that's kind of interesting, I'm not sure we're getting the returns out of Eddie Jackson that I was hoping for. And I'm starting to wonder like if Ardarius is the better option in more snaps with the way he's been playing. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. Looking forward to the Bills game, looking forward in general, just what combination of personnel do they land on. I thought we had a huge uptick by having Wiggins available this game. The defense wants Wiggins. The defense really wants 3 high-quality corners, and now we have it with Wiggins available again. And once Smollett's back, we'll have 4, which will be really nice. But at the moment, like Wiggins, I think is like surprisingly important. And those 50% of snaps that he's been playing are really big leverage snaps, and he's been playing quite well. So I am very happy to see that he's back. And I think like the thing to look forward to going against the Bills and looking forward is just like what rotations and what snap counts they kind of like land on the personnel packages. I think they're still trying to figure that out, particularly on defense and to some extent offense too. I mean, we didn't really talk about it, but the tight end, like who had in their bingo card that the least amount of snaps for tight ends would be Mark Andrews. And like in theory, he was fully healthy and like he would be completely zonked on the, box sheet. And granted, he had some good blocks and stuff, but like, it's just like that deployment's been fascinating all year. And I'm like starting to wonder if he's on the Kelsey, like, reserve for playoff plan.
Just seems insane. Yeah, I feel like that kind of gets back to my point about Monken's offense, like week to week. Like, I mean, obviously, like, look, like, I'm glad, and I called, for the Ravens to give the ball to Henry. Like, I understand that, like, that's fine, and other players did get involved too, but just like I think it was like one target for Andrews the whole game on that 1 3rd down. Like,
Yeah, the overthrown ball.
hell?
Yeah.
Like, come on, really? That's it? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean,
it's a little
in
weird.
fairness, Lamar threw the ball 15 times.
Yeah.
I know, but but still, I think to Alex's point from like the snap count, like it was a little, it felt a little strange. It's like, what is, are they taking Andrews off the field because they don't want him to be involved in like doing as many blocks, for example? Like, maybe that could be it, right? They just don't want him to like bust, hurt his ankle or have a chance of injury unless like he's like fully back, for example. Versus like 2021, where that he was basically the whole offense, right? He was blocking all the time and getting a bunch of catches and stuff like that. So maybe that could be it. But I mean, it's hard to, I feel like nobody here would say that like, Kohler is a better option than Andrews, even if you're going to run 2 tight end sets, right? In any facet, passing or blocking. Like, it's just a little weird.
He has a cool helmet, like the heads. No, I don't know. I think
yeah.
I think he could be an okay blocker, but I get what you're saying because I think you're just a little bit more multiple. I think the way that they account for Andrews is very different, so it just changes.
Yeah.
It's more because of Andrews' name, I think, and his ability as a pass catcher that his blocking might be a little bit better just because of that. I don't know, skew, if that makes sense. But
well, got a great grade in blocking from Harbaugh. Harbaugh mentioned, made sure to mention that quite loudly. And I mean, good. I mean, we got to talk. I mean, all the tight ends and receivers. I mean, offensive line.
Ricard too, man. I mean, it was a huge Ricard game.
If you look at Henry's longer touchdown in the game, that touchdown doesn't happen without Aguilar. Aguilar had an excellent block. He maintained that downfield, and if not, then maybe Henry still gets in because he's Henry and he can plow through 2 defenders, especially if there's secondary guys, defensive backs. But still, I mean, Aguilar made it way easier for him there. But yeah, I think that we'll see more of Andrews as the season goes along. He's coming back from that major injury. The more he talks about that car crash, and he's had several opportunities to talk about it, the more it sounds like it may have, beat him up a little more than is being let on. He still hasn't looked quite himself, in my opinion, when he has caught the ball. But yeah, I mean, obviously we need Mark Andrews in his Pro Bowl form, right? I mean, you've got a bunch of great weapons on this team, but outside of Flowers and Andrews, those are the only 2 that are like Pro Bowl talent at this very moment. Maybe Likely can get there. He's close. Maybe Bateman can finally be unlocked, but that also kind of feels like, chasing Copium. I don't know what at the moment. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So, we want to see old, reliable Mark Andrews back. Everyone does. Every Ravens fan does. And of course, they're going to be holding their breath till we see it. So I totally get it. Yeah. And look, I'm sure the coaching staff has a plan for him because they have to know he's important, right? We know he's important. They have to know he's important.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to go back to the defense a little bit because I feel like we keep meandering back to the offense for whatever reason. But
we're just so excited. They scored more than 25 points.
I just wanted to throw out a couple names and, we can kind of go and talk about some other guys if we want. But Calvin Noy obviously had a huge game with 2 sacks. The orbital bone has not slowed him down at all. Like, he still looks incredible.
I'm thinking about breaking mine. It seems like a performance enhancement.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, like, different moves too, right? I mean, I think that this defensive line still takes a lot of what we were doing last year with our defensive front, so kind of a lot of stunts, right? So I believe the first one was kind of like a more of a stunt that got him free. So he's crashing inside. And then I think the second sack, he had a really nice spin move, be able to get back to Dak and sack him there. So I think he looked great. Defensive line in general, I know, Alec, you're concerned about some of the snaps and health and everything, but I mean, I think that 4-man rotation right now is just like super strong. You basically swap out your 2 guys in the middle between, Matabike, Jones, Pierce, and Washington. Just pick two, and that's who you have in the middle, and then the linebackers on the outside, and and the guys behind him. Trenton Simpson, I feel like, was also looked pretty good this game. I mean, didn't like go off on the stat sheet, but I think he was involved in a couple tackles, particularly early on. I really feel like they want to get him on the field. I think Alec, you'll have to check the snap counts for me, but maybe Malik, I feel like I didn't see him out there as much.
No,
like I saw Simpson more and Hamilton more, kind of in that dime backer spot. So I like that version of the defense. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think to your point earlier, Alec, of who's going to take that third safety spot if Jackson's really not the guy. Ardarius also had like a huge, I think it was that second quarter, third quarter, where he had like the three huge plays in a row. He's trending up, so yeah, I'd love to get him a little bit more snaps as long as he can stay healthy. That's his biggest thing, right? It's such a small frame. He can, it's. I think it's been hard for him to stay healthy. But
yeah, Chris, you bring up some good points. So Harrison, he only played 6 snaps in the whole game, and then Simpson, his snap count was down considerably in this game. So they are like definitely leaning on their surplus of DBs and using that, which I think is a good idea. And I think that's also a byproduct though of the opponent. Like, this team can't run. They don't even like act like they can run. You know what I mean? Like they barely even attempted to run too much. So I think we'll see going forward, because I think I can imagine Simpson playing a lot of snaps next week because the Bills are much more balanced.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see that. One thing I do want to make sure that we talk about here, I don't really care one way or the other about the Cowboys. I certainly don't like them. I know there's a lot of fans who just can't stand the Cowboys, like everyone can't stand the Patriots and Steelers. I think we just became into football fans a little too late for that. Plus, we're not Commanders fans. But anyone else catch Vinoy's second sack was literally right on the midfield star?
Yeah,
am I the only one who caught that? I thought that was really funny. Now, at the same time, it was shortly
Dak
after
put the ball down right in the middle or something.
Yeah. He sacked him almost right front and center in that star on midfield. So I thought that was funny. But also at the same time, we know that the Cowboys fans are very protective of that star, and it was shortly after that the fourth quarter collapse happened. So maybe there was some weird juju there with disrespecting quote unquote the star. But anyways, yeah, I agree with what you're saying though about Vinoy. I mean, man, off the couch, man. I know the Ravens love their Alabama guys. They gotta, keep getting these guys from off the couch. You had him. Obviously, Clowney was great last year. And he's doing well. Another thing I thought was really interesting with the pass rush, maybe we were seeing some of it in weeks 1 and 2, but there were several snaps where Matabike was rushing off the edge. Did you guys notice that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really interesting, adding versatility there.
Yeah, I think they've been doing pretty well overall. Just I feel like we got to try to find I don't know how we're gonna find a way to do it, but as fans, I think we have to find a way for them to not get called roughing the passer in so many situations.
Yeah,
I feel like we got to talk about it. Like, I know we don't don't like to dance around, but I feel like at this point it is a talking point of like 3 weeks in a row. Penalties are crazy. That roughing the passer on OA was
all right. Look, you guys
very inopportune.
Yeah, you guys know that I hate the ref. What I call whining. I'm just like, I don't care. Just like, if you get in a position where the refs matter, it's more like what you did. It was too much for me. Those calls. I mean, what the heck was that? That hit that Owe made? How in the world is that pass interference? The illegal contact on Marcus Williams, where Eddie Jackson almost had a pick, mind you. He came very close to a pick on that play. The
intentional grounding, that wasn't.
There's no way that should have been a safety. I forget where it was, who shared it. If it was someone in one of our chats or something I saw on Twitter. But the rule is that it's intentional grounding if the ball is thrown to a receiver who is not declared as eligible before the play started. I don't know who that offensive lineman was, but they were not declared as eligible. I can guarantee that in that play.
I don't know if
There was
the
really questionable calls there, and that takes a lot for me to say that. So, I mean, yeah, that.
Well, you heard about the OA thing too, right?
Very questionable. What's
It
that?
was like the OA thing where he was like, yeah, that ref was smiling at me the whole time, and every time, like he like seemed like ready to get me, and then like that sack happened, he threw the sack and he was smiling about it, and I was like, oh man, like you're gonna fight for that. So I don't know. Watch this space.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I don't believe that stuff. I think that's just that. But
there's video, man. There's video. The conspiracy continues.
I can believe what I saw with my own eyes, and like everyone, you got the best quarterback who ever played the game, Tom Brady, saying, who's of course going to be biased towards the quarterback, saying that he on the broadcast that he didn't see how that was, roughing the passer. How else? How can you argue with that? How can you argue with that? Tell me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't. It's garbage.
Just very. I mean, that like I feel like that wouldn't have been as bad. I mean, obviously, like it extended the drive and that led to a touchdown, so like that's bad. But like again, like you add that and the Zay fumble on the onside kick, and like you add like 3 plays together, and you're like, okay, well, chaining them together, that means the Cowboys scored 3 touchdowns and they almost won the game. Like, fuck, that looks scary. But if you only have one of them, then like, okay, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But yeah, even if you had the that safety in there to get that 2 points, like, yeah, it would have helped. Do we need it? Probably not. But it's just, come on, keep happening week to week and week. What the hell?
Indeed.
Oh man.
Before we transition over, let's do MVPs real quick, and then we'll add in our guests for talking about the Bills.
All right, I can jump in.
All right,
okay, Chris, go. All right, fine, whichever. I'm gonna do it. I did not think I was going to be saying this man's name after last week. I didn't think I was going to be saying it after week 1. I didn't think I was going to be saying it back in August. But man, Daniel Falele, man, the run game set the tone for this game. And no, I'm serious. He had a lot of good blocks. He looked like a different player out there. There's obviously players who played better than him, but I think that, he was one of the guys who set the tone, and we've been needing to see this from him. I don't know if it's going to continue, but he had a great game on Sunday and was a huge reason that the Ravens offense was able to get up to that big lead. So he gets mine.
Henry for me. Called it before the preview, man. Like, you got to get him running. Like, that's why we brought him here. We all wanted to see him, so I think it was huge, especially from the Cowboys. Supposedly he was interested in the Cowboys. They were interested in him. Jerry Jones came after and said, "We can't afford you," and everyone's like, "What the hell? Yes, you can. Why didn't you do this?" He just beat our asses. Like, I think it was a great game for him. It was kind of a throwback game. Huge. So MVP for me.
Nice. I think when you made your bold prediction, we were like, okay, that's good. But when we saw his outfit, when he was looking like a cowboy going in, did that adjust the ranks for you? Did you, were you like, oh man, it's definitely happening today? He got that outfit on. He looking fresh.
Honestly, no, because I feel like a lot of players do that. You know what I mean? I feel like Rowe did that for like the Texans game last year or something like that. Yeah. So like, I mean, like, Rowe's Rowe, and he can do whatever he wants, and he's not did not adjust. He could tackle me, but the
lines did not move.
Yeah, no,
that's okay. For me, I mean, I'll just go Kyle Van Noy. We mentioned he's the only guy that got 2 sacks, so that's pretty sick. But before we transition, one last thing. Thanks if you came to the festival. That was super cool. But huge shout out, yet again, to Hazem, that we have met our goal. He donated again. He was like, I'm going to push you guys over the edge. So thank you so much. We reached our goal of over $1,000 donated to St. Jude. Still not over for September. You can still keep donating for childhood cancer awareness, and make sure that we find ways to beat these horrible conditions nationwide and worldwide, with all the work that they do and all the facilities they're setting up in different places, not just in Memphis, Tennessee. Very cool calls. Actually, my work's doing something for them. I thought that was really cool too. So lots going on with St. Jude. Check it out. Great month to contribute whatever you can. All right, let's move on to the Bills. And to bring on Mr. CJ. CJ, welcome to the show. We are happy to have you on yet again to talk about your Bills, who looked dominant last night. That's why we didn't record last night. We are like, oh, they're playing. We gotta let them play. Can't let them miss the game.
Well, they did have a great game. I was pleasantly surprised. It was although Jacksonville doesn't look as good as they usually do, but it was nice to get a big lead and not give it up in the second half.
Well, it's crazy. We're 3 weeks into the NFL season, and we're talking about the two best teams in the league being Minnesota Vikings, of all teams, led by Sam Darnold, and your Buffalo Bills. I mean, you guys have looked the best this year so far on that game Monday night, but, I mean, really strong second half to close that out against Arizona in week 1. Week 2, you guys were on the road on Thursday night in Miami and had that game in the bag even before Tua went out. Is this team at your expectations for right now, or are they exceeding them?
Exceeding them immensely. I can't. When you look at how we bottled up Harrison Jr. in the first game, and Waddle and Hill didn't do much in the second game. I don't understand it. Our secondary has been decimated by everyone leaving over the last year, and we're dealing with it, and I guess we're getting some good scheming going on because something's going right. I'm a little worried still about our run defense and our defense against tight ends, but which are of course are the Ravens' strengths. But we'll see how that works.
One thing I was surprised to see is that this team is ranked number 1 overall in DVOA and number 1 offense, number 6 defense. You mentioned that you're surprised, and I think you mentioned to me when we talked over the weekend that this defense is really playing high to your expectations. I guess, like, when you look at the defense, have you seen enough that you're convinced it's going to continue, or are you still like expecting the worst, pessimistic?
I'm not expecting the worst anymore. Our defensive line is strong, probably one of the strongest in the league, and that will help, get pressure on the quarterback. And, as long as we don't have to use extra men to blitz, that'll be key. We can get pressure with our front four. But, we haven't, I guess, Miami's offense should have been a lot better than what it was. It's Tua, so I guess, we've pretty much owned them over the last few years. But still, I mean, they had a couple of racehorses out there, and they didn't do much against us. So, that's a credit to the front four, and getting pressure makes the back end look much better. I'm still worried because we're still missing our 2 starting linebackers. But we'll have we bend a lot in the middle of the field. We don't break too often when we get inside, when we get to the red zone. So that's always been their MO. So hopefully we can keep that up.
Yeah, remind me again, what is the number of starters you guys are missing on defense right now?
Well, our 2 linebackers are out. Milano's out, and it's Bernard that has the pec injury. I think he's out another 4 weeks. So we're missing both middle linebackers, and we are missing one of our corners. Johnson's out, so I'm not sure he's coming back this week. I doubt it. So we're down 3 starters in the back end for sure. But we lost our entire safety set from last year. We lost both corners from last year. So we're and one of our middle linebackers from last year. So we're starting over with a lot of young and undrafted free agents. So we're gonna have to get pressure, make them better back there.
Another thing I guess I was thinking about is this big transition you guys have had on offense. Moving away from Diggs and kind of going to this wide receiver by committee approach. You guys drafted Keon Coleman after trading back. Seems like early on his returns are pretty good. I guess I'm just curious, how are you feeling? With your draft picks in general, and with Keon Coleman and this new approach to offense.
Well, we started running the ball last year a lot more. One of the reasons why Diggs was so upset about being there. But we've been successful. The offensive line is out of our two top strengths are our defensive and offensive lines, and the offensive line's been performing again this year as they did last year. I don't mind the transition as much. I prefer to run the ball and take the time off the clock rather than have the 2 or 3 minute drives and throwing on every down to try and move the ball down the field. This is offense. It's much to my liking. Plus having the two tight ends help ball control, and we've been lucky. Cook's been very good, and I think he's quietly having a great season so far. And I think the offense is much better suited to keep Allen healthy, and I think it actually prevents him from some of the mistakes he's made in the past. He's not turning the ball over, and that also bodes well for us. And Keon got his first touchdown last night, so hopefully that's one of many.
Yeah, CJ, I wanted to talk about James Cook because I think you bring up a good point. One of the things that I've really felt with the Bills' offense the last couple of years is that they've been really trying to find that running back to complement Allen to try and take a lot of the load off of him in terms of rushing the ball and needing to do everything. And I feel like Cook now has kind of strung up enough games between last season and this season where it seems like they really trust him. He seems like he's the guy now. And so, yeah, I agree with you completely. I think it's going to do a lot for Allen. It's one of the things with Lamar too, right? One of the big things with Lamar, why critics of Lamar, he tries to do too much. He tries to Superman. Yes, he's very talented, same as Allen. They can do a lot of things, but it seems like if they try to do too much, then things start to unravel a little bit. They start to make mistakes, and then those kind of snowball into different things. So. Cook to me is probably if you can stop him, if you're the Ravens, I feel like that bodes very well for them. But if he does give them fits, I feel like that's really going to unlock a lot of other things on this offense.
Yeah, I agree. The threat of Cook running the ball, still will make the defense a little more hesitant, I think, to just cover the pass, and then there's always the threat of Allen running too. I think that adds a kind of a 1-2 because he's still going to run the ball. He's not. I mean, he's part of the offense. That's part of their offensive game. So he'll still have his rushes. It's just that they don't have to rely on him doing everything, like you said. He doesn't have to be Superman. As Lamar is for the Ravens offense. So, having that threat out of the bag, now you got to spy two people, not one. And I think that bodes really well for the offense. And I think that's part of the reason why they've been even more successful than I thought they would be this year. So far.
Yeah, it's still early. I mean, gosh, before you came on, we had several takes where we were like, obviously Ravens, there's been a lot of up and down first 3 games. We're like, it's a long season. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I'm sure you're aware the Ravens need to learn how to close out games this year. They do that. Yep. They play how they play in the first 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, it could probably be a good year. If not, well, it's going to be a long one. But something else that the Ravens really need to work on, and I think is going to be, this is something I'm expecting to see a lot of the Bills. They haven't worked a lot of Dalton Kincaid this year. He did get a touchdown last night, but everyone got a touchdown last night, so everyone who suited up for the Bills, it felt like. But that's been an area where the Ravens have struggled. They did a little bit better against Dallas, but Dallas, didn't really test that part of the field too much. Jalen Ferguson, I think he's talented, but he's not Rashee Rice running across the middle there, Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams like the Raiders had. Kincaid against the current scheme the Ravens are running. That's something I'm concerned about. I think that's a matchup that the Ravens are going to have to really have a plan for. But at the same time, the Bills really aren't throwing to the tight end much. It's interesting. Kincaid seems like he's their best option, but at least so far, they're not using him too much.
Yeah, it's actually surprising, but I'm not sure. It's kind of funny. I've been listening to a little bit of the Bills chatter the last few weeks, and everybody seems to think that they're kind of baiting everybody. We just won't use them yet. You won't use them yet. I don't think that's true. I just think that because I think that like Lamar has Likely and Andrews, that they're kind of a safety net for him. Allen has Kincaid and Knox, and they're his safety nets for sure. But I just think that they saw what he could do last year, and I think people are they're keeping an eye on him this year on defense. So I think he may not have as many opportunities because of that. If we can run the ball, then that maybe that pulls the linebackers up, and maybe they get open more over the middle, and that creates more opportunities for them. But and against certain defenses, I don't know. But it seems to me that when you have a good year, the next year it's harder to have another good year because of people will be scheming against you, especially now that we don't have the wide receiver core that we had last year.
Yeah.
So
I think one thing I'm noticing too, remarkably similar offenses, in fact, and maybe even more skewed for the Bills. You're just not passing that much, right? Like,
no.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like you are running the ball a lot more. Josh Allen is averaging just a touch over 200 yards a game. Very accurate passer, 75% completion rate. Hasn't thrown a pick yet. And he's just kind of peppering all these different targets. Like the highest target earner right now is Shakir at 14. That's not that many over 3 games, So like, there's no one person to worry about. But like Peter said, I do also fear this Kincaid matchup. And like, if, Hamilton's not fully healthy or playing at like, top speed, like this could be a vulnerability of our defense and the way they're playing right now. I think James Cook is the first serious test of a like high quality running game that this defense will face. I don't really think the Chiefs, like with Pacheco at that time, were particularly like, I don't know, top tier, but I do think what you guys are doing with James Cook and what success he's seeing, and obviously Allen and what he adds, like that's a dynamic duo that I want to see what the Ravens can do with. But like I said though, it's very kind of similar to the Ravens. Lamar currently has a little bit more passing yards, but a lot less touchdowns. So like maybe Josh Allen is a good finisher in the red zone or something, but I know you guys are just scoring a lot of points, so
yeah.
There's that too. But like, I don't know. It's just like, I do think these teams are kind of similar, at least in the way they're trying to approach games. And it'll be interesting to see which team is able to like knock them off that game plan first, right? Because I imagine both teams aren't going to just be able to run, and see success. I think eventually someone's going to have to pass, and then that passing might be the key to the game.
I think you're right. I don't see why both defenses just don't stack the box against each other against both offenses, because I'm sure that's obviously gonna be their game plan, is to stop both teams, is to stop the running games. But I just, you know, Allen hasn't had to throw the ball as much as he had to in the past. Now that may be also a product of the quality of their opponents too. I mean, we came out running against each of the in each of the last 3 games, and it worked. So there wasn't that switch to the chuck and duck because the running game wasn't working. So we'll see what happens. It's all like we said earlier. It's too early in the season to know that that's going to work every game. Of course, it won't. Someone's going to find a way to stop it. But you got a long season, and that's what they want to do. So everybody's going to be geared to try and stop that. And Baltimore is just as capable as anybody is, and even more so in a lot of ways to stop the run. So hopefully we'll be able to overcome that.
Do we want to go into bold predictions or anything else we want to cover?
I think I've hit everything I want to.
Yeah.
CJ, before we transition, how many tables are you guys gonna break during the game on Sunday night?
I don't know. They're expensive. I'm not going to go take any to break.
Yeah, CJ, how many are you personally going to break?
Well,
okay.
I don't know how many, but if anyone puts one in front of me, I will certainly do it.
But they got
I've broken a table or two.
That is tempting, but I don't want you to break your bum in the process.
Not a shot. I got too much padding for that. My fun fact: my niece wanted to be all bold, and before one of the playoff games a couple of years ago, she said she was going to break a table, and my niece probably weighs $105 soaking wet, so she got up on a chair and went to break the table and bounced right back off of it. So me or my brother or anybody else in our family really doesn't have that problem. So she's the only one.
That's funny.
Oh man, football fandom. It's all lots of fun. Brings us together.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I don't mind leading off the bold prediction part. I'll say now,
we always let the guest decide if they're going first, man.
Oh, that's fair. I just want to put this out
just
there.
Just because he's a second-time guest doesn't mean
I think he might be third.
He is third. Hey, he is third. You're
third.
Right.
Yeah.
Third. Yeah.
I just want to put it out there. The over/under is 46.5, and Baltimore is currently favored by 2.5 points. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I was not expecting that actually when I looked at the line. So
actually, I'm surprised the over/under is that high.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have almost scored 46 points in their first 3 games each.
Well, yeah, but that's
different teams. I know.
Listen, I don't remember what the scores of the last, I don't know how many games that we've played against each other, but they certainly were not.
Yeah, that's
even close to that.
If I recall correctly, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
they're lower scoring. Old school football.
And we always have a hard time here. I don't remember what. I mean, I know the playoff game we won here. I'm so sorry, but I don't remember a regular season game. I don't know, maybe one, but it's always a tough slog.
You guys won 23-20 in 2022.
Okay.
That game was tied going into the fourth quarter. You guys got a single field goal, and that was the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember every one of them being really tough. So, not a easy feeling here at all.
All right, well, put something down, man. You hear a lot of hemming and hawing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you guys were going to go.
No, sorry. You go first.
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, okay. Now, let's see. Bold prediction. I will say kind of two. I guess I think Cook gets 75 yards, which is a lot against the Ravens from my perspective. But I also think I'm going with the over. I know I just said it was going to be under, but it's going. I'm going with the over.
All right.
I have a feeling. I have a feeling that it's just going to be a different game than usual.
I could see that.
What about a score prediction?
Okay. 27-24 Buffalo.
Okay, that is over. All right,
It's
so
over.
Yes.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I was like, math. Okay. 51.
There we go.
I was told there would be no math.
We did it for you. It's all good.
Yes.
Actually, you brought it on. You're the one who called the over. So
Yeah.
anyways, I am going to go under. I'm going to go under. Make two bold predictions. One bold prediction is they're both for the Bills, actually, in a way. I think Dalton Kincaid goes 90 plus yards. I think that is there, and a lot of fantasy teams in mine will really enjoy that. I also think though that the Ravens will get to Allen a bit. They'll force 2 turnovers. I think he's going to have some turnovers in this game. Oh, man, and as far as who's going to win, I keep flip-flopping this score. 17-14 is my score. I keep flip-flopping Bills-Ravens, but I'll just go Ravens. I'll go Ravens here just because the Bills have won 2 in a row in this series. So I think, with 2 evenly matched teams you've had over the past few years, it's the Ravens' turn to win the close one.
Nice. My prediction was sniped by Mr. Peter. So Chris, why don't you go ahead while I figure something out?
That's why you gotta jump in, man. That's why you gotta jump
in. That's why I want to jump in. I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna get that first interception off of Mr. Allen, and then you're like, oh, they're gonna get 2.
I said 2 turnovers, so 2 fumble counts too.
Yeah, that's fair. But Chris, you go ahead. I'll figure something out here.
Okay. Man, I want to do another offensive bowl prediction, but I'm struggling between. You know what? I'll go the receivers. I think this will be a productive game for the Zay and Zay. So I guess I'll say Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely combined for over 120 yards and say 2 touchdowns, I guess. And I feel good about trying to attack the perimeter of this defense. And at first I was going to say Likely and Andrews would get a bunch, but I'm a little worried about the defensive line, just them getting pressure and kind of putting hands up to get those passes down the middle. So I'm going to go a little bit more for the on the outside of the defense and test them a little bit. So that'll be my bold prediction. I'm a little worried about this game, but honestly, maybe I'm a little overconfident here, but I do think the Ravens have had a tough first 3 weeks. I think right now the Bills are doing some things good, but I do think they might be a little bit of paper tigers given the competition that they play.
Wow.
So I do think the Ravens play the run very well, which plays well into Cook. I know Cook is higher level competition, but I think that they'll kind of do a good job with him. And then putting the ball in Allen's hands and seeing what he can do with it. So I'm going to pick the Ravens to win this one. I'm going to say, I'll say 30. I'll say 30 to 20, 30 to 22 Ravens.
That's over as well. More basic math.
30 to 22 Ravens. All right, I'll break the trend here. Well, I guess Peter was under too. I'm gonna say that the Ravens win by 3 points. And it's gonna be 23 to 20 Ravens this time. But the reason why this is interesting is my bold prediction is we're gonna be up by 20 to 10-ish. Let's call it 20-10. We'll be up. Ravens gonna be up. There are going to be 2 consecutive scoring drives by the Bills to make it tight. We're going to hate our lives. and then Justin Tucker's going to kick an over 50-yard game-winning field goal. It doesn't have to be in the last seconds. However, I'm basically just wish casting that Tucker's not washed, and like that he can figure out this mechanic thing that he says that he knows exactly what it is, and he's going to hit this 50-yarder, and it's going to win the game for the Ravens, and we're all going to high five. So that's while also all biting our nails, right? Like moments before. So that's going to be mine is a 50-yard game-winning field goal by Tucker. 50-yard plus.
Think he's going to get well against us, huh?
I think it's tough because it's going to be at night. Like you can't see as well. It's the wind might be going. It's that time of year, so it could be interesting.
Perfect for us. We always have wind.
Yeah. How's Bass been treating you guys this year?
Oh, just dandy. Actually, he hasn't been bad.
Pretty much every NFL kicker has been good to start the year except for Tucker. It's like the exact opposite of what you'd expect.
Yeah. Oh, no. What happened? Didn't... Oh, man. I can't think of him.
You think of the team.
I want to say the Redskins, but it's not the Redskins. Anyway, someone was on like their third kicker, and they went through a couple kickers in camp, and then this one's not doing so hot. I forget who it was. Man, I apologize for not remembering who that was.
Oh man, you come on here not knowing kicker stats? Come on, man.
Yeah, sorry. My bad.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, Tucker, it's incredible. Tucker currently has the worst kicking percentage of all qualified kickers in the NFL. 62.5%, 3 misses, no kicker.
Wow.
Is off to that poor of a start. So very un-Tucker-like. I think that...
I would love to see him get back on track, just not this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
I think
no offense.
Oh no, I mean, of course, because if he's on, on his game in a close game, like Ravens win, right? So of course you don't want to see that. But yeah, I think the whole NFL wants to see it. I mean, he's a good player.
Sure.
Part of the game, Tucker was part of. Him and Vinatieri made kicking interesting, right? Now we got all these crazy kickers. You got Aubrey down in Dallas kicking 67-yard field goals like he's just going off to lunch.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, sheesh. I think, yeah, he's really good. That's all I'll say. He is really good. And I think Tucker should up his kicking numbers because that guy might be coming for his record in the long term. It's still early, but yeah, he looks incredible.
Yeah. Definitely.
On that note, I guess we will end this show. Thanks for listening. If you made it all this way, let us know your score predictions for this game. You think the Ravens will pull it out? Let us know how you're feeling after 3 weeks as well. You feeling good? You're feeling a little nervous about these close games the Ravens have been playing? As always, you can follow us on Twitter. Download the pod on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods, and watch us on YouTube. And hope you guys continue to listen. Don't forget, you can still donate to the St. Jude fundraiser. And go Ravens.
Go Bills.
Go Ravens.
Go Ravens.
Sorry, had to.